And
welcome to
Oh,
Best
there he is.
of Three.
There he is. He just, wow, just jumped me. He just jumped me. He distracted me with this over here and then just
No,
took my line.
I saw it. Buddy. I was ready. Just like these underdogs are taking some of these seats to the woodshed. I just saw an opportunity. I just jumped in on it.
It's like straight up Mariah Carey. Why are you so upset with me? It's bad out there. But yeah. So it's we just wrapped up first round. Didn't plan on being back here so soon with you, TH. We promised we weren't going to talk about the first two, like about round one. We were going to let it play out.
Right.
And let round two happen, and then check back in on Thursday. But
other people had other plans.
Oh yeah, a lot of those plans I think involved jumping on Pagula's PJ back to the United States. It's bad out here in these streets.
Golf, keen win. I mean where do we start? I mean, it's
boy. Okay, I always like to start with a nice little level set and a hey, how are you doing? Good to see you. You're in your all whites. I see that.
You know what I'm saying? Wimby, baby. Wimby.
Tis the season.
Yeah.
It is. We just wrapped up day 2, Wimbledon, end of round 1 all the way through. I think maybe one match left to be finished, but not that important. And heads are rolling right now. So we're going to start with the women, and we'll try to be as concise as possible. But there's a lot of ink on this page, a lot of blood in the streets, a lot of English tea spilled. So, where do you want to start? I'm gonna give you the choice.
I want to start off with, I'm the biggest Jessica Pegula fan. I got to start with Elisabetta. She played an absolute phenomenal match. I don't know if she had a pep talk from Jasmine or not, but I swear to God, she took every ball early. And there was a girl, Alvin, that I want to this is a shout out to those that remember Nicole Vitasova from years ago. Remember Nicole? Yeah. She mastered the left foot forward, open stance backhand. When you finish it, you're almost on on the left knee. You know what I'm talking about? The straight up give no ground. I mean, if you have to take it out of the air, do so. But that shot, I saw that shot hit today from about 6 different women that literally had the upset, perhaps the upset of their career up to this point. I'll mention the 3. And Elisabetta, I'm going to butcher her name, so forgive me. Coach Abetta did a phenomenal job of not just taking it from Jessica. Jessica wasn't playing terrible, but she had no idea what she was in for today. There was a couple of camera shots where she was like, where did you come from? Like, didn't you know this is first round? You know what I mean? Like, I'm supposed to win this match.
And Jessica just won a title in, was it Bad Homburg last weekend? Yeah, beat Iga in the final.
Playing some good ball and kind of thought that, I should just kind of take care of business round. And, hey, my girl Elizabeth had other plans. I mean, when I tell you, took the ball early, and Jessica doesn't hit a small shot. I mean, you say what you want about JPEG. She hits the ball.
I got nothing bad to say about JPEG.
She absolutely got taken to the woodshed today. And I got to tell you, it was refreshing to see that level of tennis. And Alvin, hats off to her. I mean, she literally played like somebody had the cheat code and they gave it to her for the match. And she was like, is that what I got to do?
One of the most interesting thing about the match in itself, sometimes you catch a player on a heater and it's like, what am I supposed to do?
Right.
Like Jess had her 3-all in the second set.
Yeah.
I think she was serving. She had an opportunity to kind of get maybe kind of stop the bleeding, get herself back in the match. But it was not to be. And I think one of the more interesting things was I watched her press conference after the match.
Okay.
And she kind of said the same thing. Like, she was on a heater. Not much I could have really done. Maybe could have played a few points a little bit better in the back end of that second set.
Right.
But, one of the reporters in there asking questions asked about the format, best of 3 versus best of 5. And she's like, if we had more time,
right,
like best over the course of 5 sets, generally the better player wins. So like, that's what makes it tough. these Grand Slams are, you start slow, someone has a good day,
Yeah.
or you lose your serve, and you're fighting for water. But she did say something really interesting. She said she had no interest in playing 5 sets. She's like, no, I think the men should play 3. I don't want to play 5. And I that doesn't matter. She was giving a press conference after losing the match.
Right.
Whatever.
Right.
I expect great things from her in the hardcourt season.
100%.
But her time here is.
Oh, buddy.
And with her former doubles partner Coco Gauff, also short trip to GB. Yeah, that was a yeah.
Both girls started off strong. By that I mean Elizabeta and Diana Yastremska. I'm gonna say this: Coco looked blitzkrieged.
Yeah, she got punched in the mouth.
Jessica got surprised, fought her way back into it, had her footing, and I think just didn't play aggressive enough in later in the match. I thought Coco got absolutely punched in the mouth, and I felt like Diana came through and gave her something she hadn't seen. Kept taking her ball early. Ironically, Alvin, as we've seen, she's got a good back. She kept attacking the backhand of Coco Gauff, which I thought was kind of amazing.
Think she did a really good job of building up on that side. And then
I'm gonna go behind you a few times to the forehand. One point she went behind her like 7 times, but in general, she was going through the court and had no problem coming forward, had no problem coming big on the return, had no problem coming on volleys. I just thought she tactically played her smart for the surface. And this is what I wanted to just piggyback on from our last podcast, Alvin. This is what the grass will do to you. It will make you play a different style of tennis. It will make you defend a different style of tennis. And it's not just, as you mentioned, the shooter's paradise. I get that, the playmakers, but it brings the transition game back forward. And so all these players that can get you ball 5, ball 6, get their teeth back in the point on a second serve, it really allows the clay, especially hard court. You can hit a ball open stance, Alvin, if you're a pretty good athlete and a pretty tall male or female, and you can get yourself back into a point. On the grass, you lose your footing, you're behind, you start hitting the can open instead of hitting the forehand. And buddy, once you see that continental grip open up and you're coming forward, you've been well taught to come forward, buddy, it's curtains. And and that's to me how the game kind of started. And in a lot of ways, I like the serve and volleyer in me, the purist in me likes that that's still relevant today.
It does force you to do more things, right? It does force you to do more things. It forces you to, I wouldn't say necessarily construct points, but put together some pretty effective plays, if you will.
Yep.
So it's about your ability. Yeah, you need to come out with a serve plus 1 that actually makes some serious sense, because you might not get ball 5, right? There isn't really a lot of like adapting going on out there. Like it's a lot about execution, and I very different plan of attack, but a very similar face that I saw from Coco this year versus last year's round 16 against Emma Navarro. She just kind of looked like, I don't really know what I'm supposed to do right now. Now, Emma played her very differently in that round 16 at Wimbledon last year versus Diana today. Diana went through her. Hit her in the mouth. And which is very
Emma
different.
Had some slides, had some junk, had some different shots. I remember that. And kind of changed it up on a little bit and made her create some pace, which I thought was smart.
And that's a tough matchup first round, right? Like, I mean, Coco mentioned as much in her post match, which I don't normally watch a lot of press conferences. I don't generally take much from them, but sometimes you get some, especially in these kind of instances where these are upsets, major upsets early first round. There's some insight there, and Coco did mention, like, one of the things that she took after French Open was like, with all the stuff she had to do afterwards, and then a little bit of time to celebrate with her friends and family. By the time she actually got to practice, it's like she had maybe 2 days on the grass, played Berlin, got a few more days at Wimbledon, and the players don't get a ton of time on the show courts. They get some time on the outside courts, but very it's a tough transition, which makes like what Nadal did so many times, the handful of times he did it,
and the great Bjorn Borg, you know what I mean, who did it about 5-6 times in a row,
and Carlos as well. Same thing, he did it last year.
Yeah.
So it's not something to be taken for granted. I mean, Bjorn did it back when it was a 2-week turnaround. Carlos Same thing with Nadal, but now it's 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Regardless,
Regardless,
Coco,
and
Coco
you
out.
heard it right here. There, this is indicative of like what the Australian Open used to be, where seeds would come in just a little bit soft, not quite
Sure.
ready for competition, and you would get those players, kind of catch them slipping a little bit. And this one here, I got to tell you, it was hate to see Coco out. It's obviously bad for the tournament to have her out, but don't tell that to Diana Yashimska.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Played great. And I tell you, another one that I watched was Keen Win. Went out very similar. Katerina Siniakova came out and punched her in the mouth.
Yeah, you mentioned that one.
Came forward. Alvin, it's like they're all kind of taking the same, hey, you know what you can do to be the top 5 player? Take the ball early, inside and backhand, that you call it the skinny cross. Come forward. They'll all slice and can open. You can get a volley.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I've seen it probably 50 times today, especially off that side. And I'm telling you, Alvin, it's been really good to see these 30 and outs, right? Not bow down to this level of competition. And hats off to them, man. I mean, we were kind of, cheering on Lois Boisson, a little bit in the French, but kind of looking these seeds in the eye like, hey, I'm not scared of you. And we've had 3 in one day. So anyway, I just want to say that.
Katerina, you mentioned you called her out in our draw show, and I was a little iffy. She's had some tough first round matchups in previous slams, and Katerina's like ranked somewhere between like 50, 60 in the world, maybe 70, somewhere in there. Solid singles player. She won in the world in doubles. I think she's the best doubles player in the world. Plays with Taylor a good bit. So you take that. And with her propensity, like she's crafty at the net, she has the skills, and is a good enough singles player to know how to create the opportunities,
right. Especially on grass.
Create the opportunities to come forward, not just hit the volley, but you have to create those opportunities. Yep. That's the hard part. But yeah, she takes care of QZ. Pretty. It was a tough second set, but then like cleaned her up in the third.
Yep.
One that we talked about a little bit, not necessarily a seed going out, but Peyton Stearns taking the L to Laura Siegemund. It's more like getting Siegemund. Like she has this way of really making life extremely difficult for typically young Americans. Actually, she's a tough out, and she really forces you to go through her, and she's annoying in that way. But I mean, again, not a huge. What's the chuckle all about?
No, you're just keep going. You're the king of the understatement right now. Is all.
Well, you can overstate if you want to, but that was just like there's something about Wimbledon that it's not. Obviously, it's different than all the other Grand Slams, right? Yep. But with it being on grass and you getting so few opportunities to actually play on grass,
right?
It is one where like you don't have like weeks to get ready for it or adapt to it. It happens over the course of a career, right? Yep. So someone like Laura Siegemund, who's been on the tour for years, right? She understands the transition between clay and grass better. She's probably had some opportunities to try and fail different ways of preparing for Wimbledon,
right?
And that's just enough to get you, to the second round. Even if you're the player you're playing against on paper is the better player.
And let's be honest, Alvin, the ability to play on grass year after year and each round played is exponentially better the next time. You're that much better to have played it. Right. I tell a lot of my players sometimes your goal is to play 5 matches this weekend, right? Not necessarily the wins and losses. Play 5 matches. Now, clearly you got to win enough to play 5 matches. But 5 matches to me is a very good Mendoza of getting you enough reps under center, so to speak, enough snaps under center that you know what you're doing most of the time. 2 matches is nothing you can really even put, any stock in. You could have played terrible. The guy could have played great. You play 5 matches. You now have seen your better tennis, your not so good tennis. You know how you're playing. And you play any more than that, buddy, you have a real good idea, right?
Yeah.
You come to that Wimbledon. Ain't no backdraw, right? It's a short season in general. And playing at the All England Club is in itself a little bit of awe. You guys just got to get past the awe and kind of get. As I said, I was at Orangi Park, and I was nervous. You know what I mean, when I was there. So I say it to say it's something. If you go through 5 Wimbies and you play 5 matches, you're already underserved, so to speak. You can play 5 Wimbies and you've played 15 matches. You have a lot more experience in the tank. And it's not to say that you are going to be phenomenal and you're going to expect to get to the quarters or semis next year. No, you just have that many more matches to bank, to draw from as far as experience. And I think that's all I was getting at, is that you make a great point in that it's not just a short turnaround. Most players, if you haven't grown up on the stuff and you're a little bit shaky with, say, on the run, footing balance, or striking after the serve, and you're not as comfortable coming forward, buddy, any of those 3, let alone a combination of, you will be, and you play against a player who is, you could be in trouble.
Speaking of players, that's a nice segue. Speaking of players who came up on the surface, Sonny Kartal takes down Ostapenko.
Big one. No tears shedded there, by the way, but it was certainly a surprise.
I mentioned Sonny in our previous show, just kind of like, in the conversation around, do we overvalue grass court, quote unquote, experience for players from Great Britain? Even though, there aren't that many tournaments on grass court. Here are 2 examples back to back. We'll talk about Sonny versus Penko and then Bolter versus Badosa. But that was a match in which, like, it just felt like Penko, it felt like she was almost afraid to get dirty.
Yeah.
Like normal Penko stuff on like day 1. I think they actually were the first match to start.
Right.
To open the
like
championships.
She was apologizing to the grass or something.
She was smiling. Like, Penko doesn't smile.
Right.
Like, what are we talking about?
Right.
She was smiling. She's like, saying she was very
ceremonial.
Very much so. I'm at Wimbledon. I'm enjoying being at Wimbledon. This is great. And then loses the first set 7-5. And after she storms back to take the second set 6-2, like, pretty handily, I was like, okay, she's got it. And then damn near tanked the third. I don't know what. I mean, I guess that is the Penko dance, right? You don't know what you're gonna get. But she was like down. I think she was down like 5-0, and like with the quickness in the 5th set, and like not running for balls. I'm like, this is odd.
Yep.
Odd.
Yep.
But as it is.
Katie Bolter and Paula Badosa was a bit of surprise. Not a surprise. You knew it was going to be a tough match. We mentioned that before in the draw podcast, but I don't know. I was more impressed by Katie's play and more than I was underwhelmed by Paula. I feel like Katie, if there was a surface to play Paula on, right, this was the way, and she used her effectiveness and her experience on the grass to her advantage. I don't want to cut her short. I want you to chime in. I want to save my spiel for the upset that wasn't in Vondrousova and McCartney.
I didn't watch Bolter versus Badosa. I think there's just a match I just didn't have time to get my eyes on. So I won't go. It's interesting. A player I didn't work with him when I was at University of Texas, but I was working in the athletic department on the academic side. And Lloyd Glasspool was one of my first year players that I worked with. He was a freshman on the men's tennis team. Lloyd's British.
Yeah,
he is now.
You don't have a name like Glasspool and not be British,
right? Let's put that out there. But he's on the tour now. I think he's top 15 in the world in doubles. Nice. Like, very solid doubles player, professional doubles player at this point. I would like to ask him. I'll probably just shoot him a note. Like, the value of growing up in Great Britain. Right. Like, how much does that help you when you get on grass courts for the few tournaments that are on grass? Like, is it something that once you grow up on it, like, is it in you forever?
Yeah, right. Clearly, it's something you don't have the same, clearly you're more familiar. I mean, I think that we all can appreciate, you know what I mean? Right. But at the same time, how much of them grew up on it. That's like sometimes assuming every kid from South America grew up on clay, and actually a lot of them grew up on hardcore. You know what I mean? So, but to your point, England is pretty unique in that way. The upset that was Marquetta against McCartney, and
poor McCartney,
and I felt bad for her because not only are you one of the last seeds, you're playing a former champ. We talked about it. Thanks a lot.
Right, exactly.
I would have much rather been the non-seed.
This is the thanks I get.
Right, and played anywhere else in the draw, right? Obviously, she lost in straights, breaker, and she kind of caught up to her there at the end, which I thought was great. But you heard it right here. That as we talked about, that is going to be some tough sledding. And doesn't she play Raducanu next?
She's got Raducanu next. Yep, she's got Raducanu next.
That is what we call wrecking ball. And I'm not a Hannah Montana fan, but this is wrecking ball right here. You heard it right here.
I mean, not to look too much far, but like in that match, and somebody reached out and asked, why don't we make predictions around these parts? And I say, why? Yeah. Why do I have to make predictions? Right. So you can jump back in the comment section again when we're wrong. I'm not here to guess the future or the fortune of a professional tennis player.
I'm not Cleo. You know what I mean? Calling me now. More importantly, Alvin, I will say this. I enjoy speaking to what I see as a intriguing matchup on this surface, and you're very good at this, of looking at the history, the head-to-head, doing the research on that on the back end to know what might spark your interest. I look at matchups, and I look at who I know is good and who game styles, years of being a coach, and I say, that's going to be tricky. And so, I look at those kind of matches, and we'll get to more of them on the men's side. So that's more what I enjoy doing, is highlighting a match that you want to watch, a match that I know is probably going to be a little dicey for the seeded or the favorite player. And because you just know, from knowing the game, that this is not going to be a cakewalk for that player, and I think we dialed up four of the 5 or 6 of the upsets. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and a lot of it is
not that we knew upset was coming, but that we knew they were going to be tough sled.
Yeah, and in the beginning of a tournament like this, there's 64 matches to be played on the per side in 2 days. There's a lot to cover, but like as a fan, it's like, what should I be watching? Sure. Like, what should I pay attention to? Right. And I think that's probably where we can provide more value. It's like, take a look, like keep an eye on someone like Siniakova, who does not hit the headlines often, but she's got game, and that's kind of match that you want to. I mean, they all have game, right? But okay,
but a very solid game, especially against a player that may not be expecting it.
Yeah, if this match was at the U.S. Open or the Australian Open, it would be like, whatever. Like, don't pay attention to that. Right. But here, it's a different case scenario. I owe Katie McNally an apology.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I did it. I said a thing last time asking why I see her in the first round of every Grand Slam.
Did somebody call you out?
No. Someone else joined me in asking about the curious case of Katie McNally. But I went and did my own research. Okay. Because I don't want to be irresponsible.
Right. So what did you find out?
Katie McNally is operating on a protected ranking. Right?
Oh, PR, for sure.
Yeah. So, but it's not listed PR.
I thought that when it was the case, I thought you were talking like what past her PR was getting her into some of these events, and I knew she was on PR.
I didn't know she was on a PR.
Oh,
I didn't know, because usually it's listed somewhere. Usually it's like it's got her name, McNally, PR and everything. So it's very straightforward. But it's been a very extended PR. She got hurt like a year and a half ago, came back, and now she's like selectively taking.
That's what I'm saying. They used to give you so many tournaments that you could use that PR for. What I thought it used to be in the calendar year. And maybe now it's just extended.
They might have stretched it. Yeah, and just like to the term, because she's not taking them all the time. Like she's in all the Grand Slams without having to qualify.
Smart.
She's 2-something in the world. smart. Yeah, I mean, she was top 60.
I'll
Like
use
no shade.
I'll use my 8 PRs for the next 2 years Grand Slams. Thank you very much.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'll grind in on the challenger circuit, but I want to live that good life.
No doubt.
When I go to
and hey, where I can
England.
lose first round and still make about 50 grand. You know what I mean? So
pick up some towels on the way.
I ain't mad.
But she won her first round match.
Yep.
So
Katie
there
can play.
There
Grass
you go.
is great for her. Grass, much like Siniakova, talking about that, very much so. Very good returns coming forward. I mean, how why wouldn't she play Wimbledon? She should put all if she has 8 from now until 2032. Just put me down.
and the I don't not to say the irony or the serendipity of it all, but she was Coco's original doubles partner.
Yeah,
right?
Old school, triple OG.
And Coco dumped her for JPEG. And look who's in round 2 and who's not. That's all I'm saying. That's all. Yeah.
That is a very low blow right there.
Shade.
I'm gonna let you get away with it. Let that linger.
I do want to kind of a few other matches I wanted to kind of briefly talk about.
Yep.
Not for the upsets, but for the near upsets where the higher seeded player really got it together.
Madison. About to say, you got to throw Madison in there.
Madison was in a tough,
fight.
Weird one early.
I told you
day
that match
one.
was going to be tough.
Yeah.
I knew that one.
Played,
called
yeah.
that one in the draw episode. I'm like, buddy, don't sleep.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, she got through it, and I think that's the number one thing. You start to see that kind of in a few different areas. Like we'll talk about it on the men's side later, but like Taylor Fritz, right?
Yep.
You can talk about Carlos, right? Like
Yep.
getting through the
Yep.
match, like getting that first your feet on the slick grass and just saying, okay, I made it.
Yeah.
I got through it.
Yeah.
We'll get a couple more hits in, and then we'll come back in 2 days
Yep.
and work it out. Same thing. A little cleaner, Barbora Krejcikova.
Yeah.
Like
Krejcikova had a tough one. I saw that.
She had a tough one. Alex Yala gave it to her. Like really, really brought the best version of her game in that first set.
Right.
But Babs never looked shook. Like she looked like a true champion. I mean, she's the defending champion.
Yep.
1, she's a 2-time Grand Slam champion. 2, in singles, right?
Yep.
She handled that match like an adult.
Yeah.
She took Alex's best shot, and then you're not getting that forehand down the line ever again. The rest of this match, and just shut her down. She's like, "You're lifting everything. I'm going to make you work your ass off for everything."
Yep.
Offense is no longer an option, and then rolls her 6-2, 6-1 in the next 2 sets. It was one of those, like, you hear the conversations, like Barbora Krejcikova. She's not always playing, but when she's playing,
I don't always
yourself.
play, but when I do,
I stack slams is what I do. Her and Vondrasova, very like if they're good, watch out.
Yeah,
watch out.
I didn't see the match, and I want to go back and look at some highlights if there are any. Wemby has a notorious way, all these slams do, of not showing the non-seeded players in their little format. But that Naomi Osaka Gibson match was a 4-6 breaker in the second, 7-4. That speaks to me as another bit of a nail biter for a Naomi Osaka getting her legs under her in a match like this against a qualifier, an Aussie who's probably pretty good, pretty adept at coming forward. Just looking at the scores and looking at the flags, I'm thinking to myself, you probably slept on this one here, and the girl's probably pretty adept at coming forward, as most Aussies are. And guess what? You're lucky to get through this one to get into your next round. And I think she's
against Siniakova,
and then she's going to end up playing Siniakova, right? So that's my point. And my point being, there's another one, right? You don't look at a 4-6 as a typical first round against a qualifier of all things. It's when you're a 4-time Grand Slam champ, but hey, it is what it is. So good stuff, man. Good stuff. I was really impressed with some of the quality of play, Alvin. I was really impressed with some of the girls that got through. Impressed with some of these players that are making some noise, and as you said, it's been a pretty solid tournament so far, and it's just getting started. So
what do you think happens to Amanda Anisimova so she mud stomps Putintseva 0-0.
Yep.
0-0.
Yep.
I feel like that's like not what you want to happen in the first round.
Had she
That's
not
like not even
had
enough
done
time on
well
court.
at the last couple of tune-ups, I would say yes.
Sure.
She's been dinged up a little bit, which we both know. So surely playing that well and playing and getting on and off the court in the grass is never a bad thing. Unlike the clay where you start kind of getting your groove a little more, on the grass, you kind of want to get on and get off. You know what I mean? Don't take a tweak.
Fair.
Don't take a, get a U-joint in the back, kind of tweak on a bad bounce and on a weird backhand you misjudge and tweak something or turn something. If she were younger, I would be more concerned with Amanda. I'm not as concerned with her in this situation. Clearly, will she go into the next match as prepared, as tested? No. But she's been on the tour now 5-6 years. I mean, she's enough of a veteran now to know what she's doing. She's had a few of these tournaments. Now that she's healthy, quite frankly, I think that's more the bigger issue here for her than the other way around.
That's fair.
I think, what I'm looking at more is, as you say, you start looking at the other half of that draw. I mean, players like Magda Linette. I thought she got surprised again by a qualifier. She lost 1/3, Alvin.
Okay, so she lost to Giacomo, who was she's French, French qualifier. The only reason I know that name is because she lost to Louise Boisson, I think, in the second round of the French Open.
Okay.
And I remember they were talking. I think Giacomo won French Open juniors the year before.
So she's younger.
So there's this whole thing. She's younger. Right. She's a good player. Like if any of the young French qualifiers were to have made a run at the French Open, you would have thought
it was going to be her. Sure.
But Boisson clipped her.
Right.
But she's still making great progress, and obviously she takes out Magda Linette. I feel bad for these. This is different than the Giacomo situation here, but the way these draws are really randomized, some of the matchups are so lopsided. Yeah. Like you're a seeded player, and you like even Anisimova, right? Obviously, she gets through it pretty easily, but Putintseva ranked 33 in the world, right? Yeah. I think she would have been seeded had she not done so well in the tournament. That was right before the cutoff, right? Same thing with like Muhova. Muhova hasn't played much. She's seeded 15, right? She's hoping for an easy first round match, maybe 2 rounds, and work herself into the draw. She draws Wang, 32 in the world, just final event, right? Like it's like that's
probably when the cutoff she was 33 to 35.
Exactly.
100%.
Exactly.
100%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like those are tough. Like those are just and then sometimes you get a matchup that's like, qualifier plays world number 96, and it's like, come on, what are we doing? But that's the beauty of the Grand Slam.
That's
you don't
the
have
beauty
to win.
of a slam,
baby. You don't have to beat everybody. You only got to beat 7
that person
players.
in front of you.
The one in front of you. Yeah, exactly. Matches in the second round. I guess we'll just stick with all the women, and then we'll move over to the men's.
Yep.
Obviously, Raducanu, Vondrousova.
Obviously.
Right. That'll be tomorrow.
Yep.
So by the time you're listening to this, people, that might have already happened. But what's your not necessarily your prediction, but it's Vondrousova. It feels like Vondrousova, right? Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
it feels like Vondrousova, and I'm worried about Sabalenka. Like that's how much I'm leaning on Vondrousova.
That's same boat. Same boat.
Now, and that's not to say that Emma is going to go away quietly. She played a good match against a little qualifier, a little teenage upstart. But you heard it right here. Vondrousova could get hot in this thing, and I'm worried about everybody else. This thing could be blown wide open if with Coco gone on the bottom side, with JPEG, with King Wen. I mean, this whole thing. If you take out Sabalenka, you know what I'm also noticing, Alvin. I'm gonna say this. I've been watching all this Wimby, this and that. There's all this, Cheerio and all this dancing routines with Sabalenka and Coco, and everybody's all lapping it up. You know what I hate every year? And I'm a Chiefs fan, Alvin. I hate all of the State Farm commercials, Alvin, because every player I know, if I'm a player, I can't stand seeing Patrick Mahomes on the darn, and I'm looking to take Pat down just because I'm tired of seeing his face. I'm tired of seeing his face on the TV. I, as a tennis player, I'm seeing all this press conference, this and all, and I know they're lapping up because these players are who they are. But dude, you heard it right here. These other players are like, oh, I can't wait to beat her, because now you've kind of put them up on a bit of a pedestal. Yeah, I'm not saying that the top player doesn't deserve to be on the pedestal. What I'm saying is you better come in ready. You better come in ready.
I hear you. And I guess like any other sport, like tennis has a marketing issue, especially in the United States, right? Like, I mean, we're lucky that we have someone like Coco Gauff to at least put on. Like that is marketable. She's the most marketable player on tour. So we're lucky that she's not 100%. Only is she black, she's American. Like, and she wins. These are all good things.
100%.
Tennis needs to put her out there more,
way
because
more.
the sport is struggling.
But get your mind right.
Yeah.
Don't win the French and come out and get dusted first round and get surprised.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying.
It's a hard ask. It's a hard ask.
No, it's a hard ask.
Same thing. Same
Beautiful
thing.
girl too, by the way. She's certainly easy on the eyes. I mean, there's so much good about Coco. New Balance has a whole different thing around it. There's so many good things. I'm just saying, try to continue to be relevant and get your mind right in the next round, because to me, everyone is still. I say everyone. There's a lot of ones out there. Some would say that they are questioning the validity of her true being number one over a Sabalenka, over a Swiatek, even though she's had wins against both. And now you stub your toe against in the first round of a slam. And so it's just to say, you've now got, is it going to hurt her career? Absolutely not. It's just to say, it's one more little chink in the armor to say she can be beaten on the right surface at the right time.
Yeah.
And is she a legitimate number one? Maybe not yet. And that's all. And I think that's my only issue, is that she needs that. Tennis needs that. But we also need to make sure she gets farther along in some of these other slams to make sure that she continues to, like we said earlier, get her 15, 30.
I'm willing to consider it an anomaly, because she doesn't lose in the first round of Grand Slams.
And she's won 2 slams. But let's not. There's
she's
no
won 2 slams. She's finaled one other. I'm not concerned about Coco.
I'm talking long term. I'm not talking this one. This is a mulligan. We'll chalk it up. The
Sure,
other one,
the
other one I'm looking up, I'm trying to get my head around is
Iga versus Katie McNally.
The Osaka Siniakova is my next one. You're Katie McNally. You're on the bottom half, top half. Top half. I'm on top half.
Top half.
I'm looking at that one there. To me, has got a lot of. And that's bringing up that half of the draw now. Now that
it's a nice little opportunity for, we talked about this previously. Naomi's had a lot of, she looks good, but keeps getting tough early round matchups in Grand Slams, right? So like just a little bit of like you said, you want to go into a tournament and get, you want to get 5 matches in. Like, what does Naomi Osaka look like with 3 wins behind her back and rolling into week 2?
A much different Naomi Osaka.
Right, but you got to get there. She's had some. She's had some bad.
Here, and you got.
She's got an opportunity.
You got to think.
Got an opportunity.
Right, you got to think. Siniakova is going to be, may or may not be playing. May have felt that was a big win for her, and that's always that emotional possible letdown. So we'll see. Anyway, that's the one I'm looking at.
Kind of off the radar. Linda Noskova and Eva Lise.
Yeah,
that will be a fun. That will be a fun match. That will be a fun match. Yeah, I think Eva Lise is she has this kind of infectious personality that's fantastic for tennis.
Yeah.
And she also has the game to back it up. She, often she has this condition that causes her back to kind of act up, fairly frequently. So when we have her on tour, it's a fantastic thing. Noskova is no joke. Like firepower, both sides, more than serviceable serve. Like if she touches 70% on first serve percentages, like it's gonna be a tough match for Eva. But that should be a fun one, and that's what I think that's first round is always like, head on a swivel.
Get your bearings, yeah.
Right, yeah. Second round is like, okay, well, there's some interesting matchups here, and then by the time we get to third round, it's like, okay, lock in. We're making our way towards the
now
towards
you know now you know who the usual suspects are. I feel the same way about the Giacomo girl you mentioned playing bench, right? That's gonna be a tough one. Katie Valanets is playing your girl Elisabetta Cochereretto. That's gonna be a tough one. That and as far as I'm looking at, we're back in the Sakari. I don't, that one may be fairly routine. Um, I got to say this last one, Alvin. You know, that could be a Towson and Kalinskaya. I mean, that's not a foregone conclusion right there. You know what I mean? I don't. I'm just looking at a lot of these matchups. Kudermetova and Emma Navarro. That could be another.
Yeah,
another
that'll
matchup, right?
That will be another good one. Yeah,
I just look at some of these matches, and of all the people for Haley Baptiste to get, she gets the lucky loser, girl in Boko. Hey, now that would be a fun match for me to watch, not just because I got two black girls watching and playing, but it's going to be funny to see how Mboko plays a girl like Haley. You know what I mean? Haley's got all the junk, all the craft, all the hand and the grass is still fresh. So I think if this were in week 2, not that it would be week 2 per se, but if it were, the court's a little more chewed up, it would help the striker, right? Because they can get the footing a little bit more.
Wait, who's the striker in this instance?
Oh, and Boko's definitely more the striker than Haley.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not saying
Haley
she's
strikes
a huge striker, but I don't think Haley's drop shot might be her weapon. I mean, Haley's slice backhand, she's right up there. She's probably number 3 behind Ons Jabeur and maybe one of the player and retired Steffi Graf on the backhand slice.
Oh, wow.
Her slice is absolute money. Her slice is absolute money. Just saying.
Huh.
Very good.
I mean, I remember her playing. I vividly remember her playing against Madison, French Open, and it was a rock fight of a match, in which I guess both players can tend to get into those kind of matches. Yeah. But I did see a lot of slap forehands from both sides.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a little ugly.
Oh, it'll pop up a lot ugly.
Yeah, but when I envision this match against Mboko, I feel like it's going to be a version of that.
Yep.
Except for Mboko she's in that kind of space right now where she's played so many matches this year, right. Both on the kind of the challenger level and lower level WTA, and then making her way through qualifiers, right. A lot of events. Like she's in this like kind of like just run hit kind of space. Like I feel like whatever.
She's kind of tennis drunk, punch drunk right now.
Exactly. And whatever Haley throws at her, I feel like she's not even like
Haley to a degree.
Right. Yeah. I think that could easily be like a 3-3 kind of match for Mboko, like just because without even having to think about it.
Right.
Because she's not going to think. She's just going to run a hit.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Let's no break. Go straight through.
Man.
Ain't got time. We got to get this out.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Shout out to Sweet Brown right there. Old school, triple OG. That's what I'm talking about.
I want to talk about
which match?
Taylor Fritz.
Taylor Fritz. I thought that was a great match for Taylor pulling that one out. We knew it was going to be tough with GMP.
Yeah. And, GMP had his opportunities, 5-1 to the breaker in the 4th set, like up 2-1. Like, oh, boy.
What set was that? 4th?
4th set.
Yeah,
4th set. Yeah, he's up 2-1, 4th set tiebreaker. And, that was, he got another opportunity by that match being called on account of, going too late, come back the next day. Yeah. And, no, it was called not lice. They were inside. But,
curfew. Sorry, what was it?
Curfew. Yeah, neighborhood curfew.
Yeah,
and had a chance to regroup and come back today, but could not get it done. More that Taylor was just was able to show that he is the better player and was able to handle it.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk about this match because a buddy texted me on Monday and said, "Is this French kid the new version of John Isner?" And I thought about it, and my initial response was, I think people are starting to sleep on how good John Isner was.
Right.
John Isner, great serve, right? Great serve. 95% of his ranking is built off of that serve. But I feel like John had a lot more court savvy than people give him credit for. He was a perennial top 15 player, top 10 player, was the best American for years between Roddick and this current group
A-Rod and shoot the current
Jack Sock popped up in there at one point, but the current crowd of Fritz and TFO,
like 100%. And to your point, and Sock, well, always dangerous. Sock was to me our American version of Fabio Fognini. Always dangerous. You know what I mean? But And when he's on, you just couldn't touch him. Where I felt like John, if anything, was Mr. Consistency.
Mr. Consistency.
You know, he single-handedly held up the 250s and a few of the 500s around the tour, due to, including Atlanta, right? Due to his consistent play, and he brought fans, especially in Atlanta, back to the tournament year in, year out. It almost became his backyard tournament. That only happens when you win a lot year after year to do so. And I think that's really what the 250s, and we're going to miss them now as they're no longer here. They brought a big time player to help you kind of see, okay, how good are the rest of these guys? And, you know, people don't forget, just 2 or 3 years ago, Ben Shelton got his start by taking John to 3 sets and tiebreaker in the third in the quarters one year, not so long ago. So I say that to say, you know, its own passing of the torch, if you will. It's a great point you mentioned. It's a huge compliment for GMP to be compared to John Isner. I think is what you're trying to say, right? Yeah. And I think the next thing you're trying to say is we have to hold off to your friend on that comparison because he ain't played enough yet to be bestowed with that high of an honor. I've known John and his brother Jordan. Shout out to his mom Karen if she's watching the show, and his dad. I've known them since way back in the day. Do you remember the Jarvis twins way back in the day, Alvin? I don't know if you remember Porter Charles.
Yep.
There was a crazy match one night. Speaking of John's older brother, Jordan, was playing one of the Jarvis twins. I had to be Porter because Porter was a little crazy. And Jordan and Porter Jarvis got into this, you know, they were hook fest. You know, it was the Florence Open. This is a crazy story. John, probably 10, 11 years old.
The old Pepsi event in Florence.
Florence, South Cackalack. Comes in, and me and his mom, we were watching, I don't know, it had to be March, springtime. We had to be watching some Final Four game or something in between, and you never knew what you're going to get with one of those Jarvis boys. So I was like, well, I'm going to go watch the game a little bit, go check in on the second set. John comes around the corner. Mom, you got to come see this. Jordan and this guy are flipping each other off. And sure enough, these guys are flipping each other off, cussing each other, hooking each other. At one point, Jordan pulls the straight up, catch the ball in the middle of the box. I mean, just the old standard. It was just it's going round for round.
Oh God.
And my boy Jarvis turns around, gives him the full moon. I mean, we were like, okay, here we go. This is probably 14U, Alvin. So this is not like either player has not seen this before. They are literally one-upping each other. Like, oh yeah?
Right,
well,
yeah.
You do, so that was my first experience meeting John Isner at probably 10, 11 years old. He was already about 5'8" at the time, you know what I mean? But, and I say it to say, it always brings a smile on my face at how incredulous he was that his brother, a good player in his own right, by the way, he ended up playing for the Cavs for 2 or 3 years. He played with Ignovia at back in the day. They were on that championship team back in the day when they were here. So a couple of them, I think, they won 2 championships for NAIA back here in Atlanta. So Jordan's a good player. Anyway, so funny story. I had to bring that one up. But I want to make one last comment about John. GMP would be honored if he would get that far and get that high for that many years. I think he certainly has that ability. I was disappointed he couldn't finish that one off, but it also helped me understand Taylor is back. I thought Taylor played a very solid end of that match. And I also like the way that Taylor pushed to want to finish that match. He was not.
He was rolling.
He was rolling. He was playing some good ball. And I think they stopped him. And you always like it when you feel like a player wants to play more than when a player's kind of catching a nice little reprieve. You know, Novak had a tough match. You
could see it at the net,
right? Novak had
that conversation
with Joe Willie at the French. They got called with darkness many years ago. I don't know if you remember this one, and he had him dead to rights. I mean, Joe Willie had him dead to rights. Up 4-1, 5-1 in the fourth, crushing him. And sure enough, we know what happened with Novak. I mean, he came back the next day looking like a different player. And it was just absolutely ridiculous. So that's what, I didn't have a lot of faith in GMP after that day, after his momentum had kind of slipped. But I said to say I was happy for Fritz, especially with his injuries, to kind of regroup and put this back on his side.
Yeah, and kind of speaking more on the injury route, I'm gonna give it to my boy Lorenzo. Took the L to Nicolas Bashalashvili.
Yeah, the Georgian.
Yeah, he's not ready. He's just not ready. He's not ready yet. He's not ready. He's just not ready.
No comment.
He played no warm-up events. Still a little hurt post French Open. You got to play the event. I get it. Okay. I don't know what to expect from him in the hardcourt season either. Don't do that to me. Don't look at me like that. I don't appreciate that. I don't even, no, I will not. I will not. What I'm gonna do.
You lost me when you said my boy, and that's what I'm like.
Okay.
Oh, Lorenzo.
Yeah.
At least you owned him. I appreciate that.
I did. I'm not gonna dance around it. I just
didn't like how you took my thunder away because you knew.
We got other top seeds to talk about. We're not going to talk about Lorenzo. We can talk Medi. We can talk Sasha. Where do you want to go with this?
There's my notes.
No. I need you to stay focused. Stay focused. I don't want to lose you. Stay focused.
There's my notes on Lorenzo. So much for that. Keep going. All right. I'm back.
I say let's go.
Gotta talk about Fabio. Gotta talk about Fabio for 1 second. I called this one.
Okay,
I knew it was going to be tough.
Let's talk about Fabio.
You gotta talk about him.
Okay. 6-1, 6-2 in the fifth, 6-1.
Yeah, but that's Fabio. Fabio's done. He was done after the fourth. He might have been done after the third, to be honest with you.
That match was ugly. It was just ugly.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there were parts that were entertaining, but it was a hard watch. Like a very hard watch.
In what way?
Carlos is, in music terms, he's like jazz, right? When it's all working, it's fantastic, and it's sometimes it's spontaneous. But like this was like a jazz band that like lost its drummer. Like the drummer like just like played a little bit and was like, oh, I gotta go to the bathroom, and came back, and then he played a little bit and then I go to the bathroom, come back. There was no rhythm to the match, and Carlos couldn't create rhythm. He was shanking forehands like nobody's business. He looked just like off. And granted, he won a tennis match, right? That's the job here is to survive and advance, and I guarantee he's going to look like a world beater tomorrow. But there is something about that relationship as well. I know he reveres Fabio, and he's like Fabio's like one of his guys. Like he looks up to him a little bit.
How do you not look up to a guy like him who smacks the biggest slap on the tour? And don't think for a second.
And he's a cool dude too.
He's a cool dude, man. Don't think for a second that Fabio was going to give him any rhythm.
Right.
There was a match years ago at the Miami when it was still in Key Biscayne, where Fernando Gonzalez played a young Rafa Nadal. It was the ugliest warm up I'd ever seen. It literally looked like Gonzo was hitting balls intentionally as winners in the corner. There was literally no warm-up. He was slapping the ball as hard as he could in the corners. I don't know if Nadal got any warm-up at all. Gonzo ended up winning the match, but it was dirty and it was cheap. And quite frankly, I lost a little bit of respect for Gonzo. But it was one of those matches where no rhythm was the theme. And he took it even into the warm-up. Like, you're not gonna groove off my ball, buddy. I just got to the finals of the Australian. I'm trying to get to another one. I don't need some upstart dinging my chances to get there. And I think Fabio, while not as crude as Gonzo was at that time, I was very, very, I told you earlier, this is going to be a tough match because Fabio can absolutely smack it any time off either wing whenever he wants to. And was it ugly tennis? Yeah, I wouldn't call it ugly. Was it shot makers tennis? Not necessarily. Was there no rhythm? That was by design. And I also feel like, to Carlos's credit, if you play kind of a shaky match early, doesn't that bode well for you for the next two or three? You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I kind of like that. But I did think that was going to be a tough match, and it was. It wasn't, not so much it didn't look as fiercely contested, but at the same time, I felt like it was a match that was very, very much, you knew he had, the shots were big. The points weren't great. I think that's what, and you have to appreciate that. And that may have also been something that you kind of, when Fabio slaps back at you with that big shot, forehand or backhand, it kind of stuns you for a second. You're like, do I go for that ball again or not? And that's what I saw a little bit. Do I slice? Do I roll? What do I? It was almost a little bit of indecision because he counters you so quickly with his slap, and he's good 3 steps either direction.
Yeah, and I think this is another one of those. We'll keep. I won't harp on it too much after today, probably, but this is one of those surface-driven matchups where if
100%.
this is on hard court or this is on clay court,
Yep.
To a certain extent, there's going to be I would imagine Fabio's coming in here on his 10-match losing streak.
Right.
His rally tolerance probably isn't where it needs to be to hang with someone like a Carlos Alcaraz on clay or on hard court,
or just his age and shape. Let's be honest.
Well, sure,
he's older.
Some things, those two things inform the rest. Yeah. But here in this type of scenario, where it's just pin the ears back and let's see what we can come up with. Yeah. It bodes well for a player like Fabio, and I think the tour will miss him. I think this is his last.
The tour will miss him big time. I love Fabio. If you're watching, man, I remember you. Love watching you over the years. Excellent tennis player. You started the Italian wave. You know what I mean? Wave from way back, and I think I got to think players like Yannick, Jasmine. Who else was your girl? My girl Elisabetta. How do I say her name again?
You nailed it last
Coach,
time.
I've been
Cotiretta
was one of my guys, my main man, Giulio Sassi, who's my head pro at my club. He's from Switzerland, but he's from the southern part of Switzerland. It's right about a half hour from Italy. So he knows all the Italian players and watches them pretty fluently. So he pronounced her name like it was a fine wine.
Fair.
So the other match I wanted to speak to, with which I am loath to mention, is my boy Felix, and he pulled out a 6-4 in the third match, a 6-4 in the fifth match that I thought was pretty solid with the very on the clay. Duckworth can be a very tough player to play against, and I was very happy to see him pull that match out, to be honest with you. So, what say you about that?
That seems like that feels like fair Felix in the first round. He'll get himself, and you want to give probably a little more credit and more credence to Duckworth in this match,
right?
But Felix does tend to get himself into tussles early in Grand Slams, and maybe that's just a little bit of his level starting to show. But he got through it.
Got through it.
Saw him in a very similar match. Yeah, very similar match. And like Australia, the first round he played Davidovich-Fokina, and it's what are we doing out here? It's still, that's a tough first round match. Yeah. But that's Felix's job right now, is to, get through it.
Yep.
Just get through it. And we're in that kind of weird space with him and Tsitsipas, these guys who are kind of drifting backwards in the seedings.
Yep.
And then things get weird, as we've seen. Once you slip out of the seedings, strange things happen, right? You can find yourself going from 35 to 70 real fast.
Speaking of your boy, yeah, I'm so sorry. Speaking of that, your boy retired. Clearly there's something wrong with him. He's hurt. Went out to the qualifier. What do you think?
It's his back. Yeah, that's
that. I'm just saying, dude. That's
what do I think?
His this time of year from now, you just said it. Could he be 50, 60 in the world?
If he is, I think our problems are larger with Stefanos right now. If we're talking back injuries, which is pulling you out of a Grand Slam.
Yeah. Yeah, which clearly means he thought he could play because it's a slam and shorter points and what have you. But
that's worrisome.
When a French qualifier can take you out, you're more dinged up than you want to admit. That's only obviously. I didn't want to. And I hate seeing a player hurt, man. That's the worst, because I want to be able to speak to your quality of play based off what I see. And when a player's hurt,
right? Yeah,
you can't do that. And I all shade aside, man, I hope the best for him and hope the best for his team, because you just can't get better fast enough. You know what I mean? Anyway, moving on. Mannarino, I thought Mannarino would come through like we mentioned. O'Connell, hated for him, buddy. Another Aussie takes on the chin. Rublev came through. Don't let me talk about Medi. I wanna move on from Medi. I
We're
told
just
you
gonna
what.
not talk about just
I read. I told
Medi,
you I was not talking about Medi. I'm not
Medi and
going to talk
Musetti are
about
hand in
Medi.
hand, arm in arm, just
Thank
leaving the
you.
venue, not getting
Thank you.
spoken
I'm
about.
not. I'm
Okay,
not
that's
talking
fine.
about him.
I owe you one. That's
The
fine.
match that I was going to mention, Cam Norrie and Batista Agut. You know what I mean? Cam came through. Back to your point about Surface holding a little bit of something, right? I thought he did a nice job. You called this one Brooksby and Griekspoor. You know what I mean?
Woo,
You
straight
called
sets
that. I
too.
thought that was a solid one.
Straight sets.
Yeah, happy to see Fonseca get through. And
So
the one go ahead.
Brooksby's playing Fonseca in the next match.
Yeah,
That's gonna be.
Who you got in that one? Tough.
Yeah,
Couple of young guys battling it out. That's gonna be. It's certainly gonna have some fireworks and some heat.
Brooksy's, had to take some time away because of suspension over the last 18 months, and then but when he hit the scene 3-4 years ago, like he hit the scene gangbusters.
Right.
Like a little awkward game style, but like one of those players that is adept at winning tennis matches, like can win tennis matches and win a lot of them in a row.
Right.
Now meeting up against Fonseca, obviously there's maybe a little bit of there's a talent dispersion there, but here on grass, like I'm going to go with talent here. I think Fonseca, this is a very nice opportunity for him to get some Grand Slam wins under his belt, because we're looking at he's destined for seeding at Grand Slams in the near future. So let's just let this party start.
Yeah. Okay.
But it will not be straightforward.
Right. No,
it will not be straightforward.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
The match that right above that is the one that I called is your boy Nico Jerry. Nico Jerry was I don't want to speak to the other half of it, but I'm going to tell you right now. I just knew that Holger was going to be in a tough spot. Nico's a good player. Got a big serve. He has for South American. Isn't he from Chile?
He's Chilean, yeah.
For a player from South America, he has a hard court game more than you would think, a clay court game. And I just knew that was going to be a tough matchup. I mean, I'm looking at him. He's a tall guy, big server, and Holger doesn't possess some of those same attributes. Let's just say, and on the grass, that was it hurt him. And it was kind of like Marquetta, not the same way, because Marquetta's a Grand Slam champ, but it was the upset that wasn't upset to me. It was kind of like, that's just a bad matchup, and for Holger. Anyway, long story. I thought that was going to be a good one, and it was.
And that's it. That's also a case of Jerry, like, he was seeded in Grand Slams, maybe not last year, maybe the year before.
Right. And
but
that's quali.
Now he comes through qualies, but he smokes everyone in qualies, and he's playing good tennis and is healthy. So, for someone who's just kind of had a string of injuries and has got himself back into a place where he can play, consistent tennis, match after match. And again, he got down 2 sets to love. Yeah. Holger came up a little bit lame in the third set, and then Nico just kind of like hit the gas and rolled through the rest of the match. So
100%. 100%.
Take advantage of the situations you're presented with. I guess, I don't know, see you in Cincinnati, Holger. I don't know. That's fine. Yeah, so that's a tough bad beat, but
is it Jordan? I think it's Jordan Thompson. Jordan Thompson got through a tough match. I want to say it went 5, Alvin. Did it not go 4 or 5?
I didn't make my note sheet.
Jordan Thompson did not make my note sheet. I'm pretty sure he. I'm trying to look it up here. You gotta navigate the app. Anyway, long story. He's going to go up against. Let me get to my thing. Bonzi, who obviously beat Medi, right?
Medi.
So
yep.
that being said, that whole draw is kind of opened up quite a bit. And so to me, as I'm looking at all this, Alvin, that was that section we talked about. It's going to be a little bit wide open. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If some things happen, that could be a tough match. I'm looking forward to that matchup, Fritz and Diallo. That could be another tough match.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a little more straightforward.
I agree.
A lot more straightforward for Taylor, actually. Diallo is a nice young player, Canadian guy. Did he play 1 year?
I only said to say on the grass, and it's still early. Trust me, Fritz is a very good grass court player. I'm just saying it's another good test for another good player for him. He went 5 today with GMP. Just saying, I just feel like there's some things that, if there's a opportunity for Diallo to serve his way through this, he might have a chance. And it's always good to see some good young players, especially those of color, come through in matches like this. So we'll see. I look forward to seeing how he does.
What say you about, there's two matches kind of that I want to make sure we don't overlook. One being Jaime Munar taking out Bublik.
Yep.
And then the other being Artur Rinderknecht taking out Zverev.
Oh my God.
Both matches went 5.
Was that not a big match? Rinderknecht.
Yeah.
Rinderknecht.
I remember I was in Dallas for that event in February, and I remember watching Rinderknecht. He loses in the first round, and I saw him practicing in one of the back courts, and I just man, this guy is just going. He's going so hard. He's doing the same thing over and over. It was it was just this pattern of cross backhand and then coming across and then picking up the forehand kind of mid court, where he was just trying to make the shot perfect. And I mean, he might have hit it 120 times.
Wow.
And I'm give me some more spin, get some more shape, let's get that ball to drop. And it's you could see he's very intentional about the practice.
Right.
He's actually trying to drive this ball that's very difficult to drive.
For a match like today.
Right, yeah. And it's it's just so cool watching the pros practice and be very specific and intentional about what they're trying to get done on the tennis court. Because there are times where you have to dial up maybe that exact shot.
Sure.
But it's for $75,000, not for shits and giggles. Yeah. And so it's important. So
let me say one thing about that match, because I watched
you can say two things if you'd like.
I watched that match a good bit in detail. Number one, it was one of the few matches, and I watched Sasha a good bit. I've watched Sasha a good bit for the last 10 years, where Sasha got animated, Alvin. He got into it. He was emotional, and I don't think he gets emotional enough. I was actually happy to see him look like he gave 2 cents. These two players are so much alike, it's scary. With all due respect to Sasha being the higher player and having better results, and maybe a little bit better backhand, I felt like Rinderknecht's forehand was bigger. He was willing to take the shot a little more. They're both tall. They're both lanky. They both can bring it. Sasha has a big serve with kind of a muted forehand, and I think Rinderknecht is a little more streaky. I think we both agree on that.
Sure.
But Rinderknecht, I think, knew if he played the forehand side, Sasha may get a few. Out of 10 shots, he's going to get 3. But I'd take my chances on the 7th.
Sure.
And I feel like he played him tactically smart. I also feel like he served him big, Alvin. He absolutely served very, very well. Made a few errors, but as you're going to do when you're serving big and going big on the grass. But I got to say, Rinderknecht he outplayed Sasha. And that match was one of those where it wasn't a match of he played poorly. I saw the King Win match, and I'll use that one as an example with Siniaka, but she erred herself out on a lot of situations.
Sure, yeah.
No question. And that's not to take anything away from Katerina. But this match here, Rinderknecht just beat him, Alvin. He just beat him. It wasn't a 5.
Alex didn't break him the entire match.
Right. So my point, he just flat out beat him. And I say that to say this was a good match. And again, back to the point, on grass, it's an equalizer. And both these guys, if this had been on clay, he's French, so he probably was decent on clay. But I felt like
he's not bad.
I felt like it was a whole lot more. It would be a favorite. The Sasha would be a favorite on clay. But on the grass, I was after watching it, I wasn't shocked at the result. If you had told me that Sasha Zverev goes out first round, I'm like, nah, no way. He'll choke a quarter. He'll lose to some guy playing well, but he's always going to get to a first round.
Right.
I watched that match, and I'm like, dude, you
tall guy, big serve, big forehand with a propensity to come forward. It's like, yeah, that's the cocktail. That's
the
how
profile.
we make it.
Your word, profile, and that profile he had it in spades today. I'm just saying, it was great. It was a good tennis match. It was a very good tennis match, and I hope I see more passion, animation, and emotion from Sasha going forward. But unfortunately, Mr. Rinderknecht had his number today.
I mean, there were 3 other matches on the men's side that went 5, and we don't have time to talk about all of them in detail. Monfils taking out Countryman, Hugo
and Bear. I told you, I knew the elder statesman would.
Yeah, that's one of those
classic Gale.
It's like, oh, Monfils is in a fifth set, just grinding someone down like on any given surface. It's amazing.
You almost think with Monfils in 5, you almost think that he's in. Not only is he, forget the age. You almost feel like, oh God, Monfils is at 5.
It's the tennis version of the rope-a-dope. He's just gonna get you in there. He's gonna sulk around a little bit. He's gonna run around. He's gonna fake out and then turn around and go get a ball. And it doesn't matter the surface, doesn't matter the country. First round of Grand Slam, Monfils is in 5. Got it. Yeah.
Done.
And that's a tough one for Humbert. Like,
it is.
I'm sure
because
there's a kinship
he's the
there.
Profile on grass that could be a lot of trouble for a lot of people.
Yeah,
Lefty,
he gave Carlos Fitz last year too.
Ball, but Gail's like, nah, not today.
Nah, I'm gonna back up. We're gonna hang out for a bit. Alex Mickelson, yeah. Mix is having a tough run here. He obviously hit the scene pretty intensely in Australia. Hasn't had a great showing at Grand Slams or any of the larger events kind of since then. Draws Kecmanovic in the first round. Again, Mix is seeded 30. Kecmanovic is ranked 49. Kecmanovic, I think my read on him is just he doesn't have that top level of athleticism like that. He can't really hurt you with pretty much anything, but he's got everything.
Yep.
He's like a 7 across the board, which gets you to about 50 in the world. But for someone he was back-to-back Orange Bowl champion, something like that, I believe, or finished year number 1 in juniors 2 years in a row. Like it's obviously there.
Yep.
But that's just kind of the difference at this level where everyone's there. It's just he just doesn't have the ability, the finishing pop. On anything.
Yep.
To really be that same level of player at this level, but
good enough to beat Alex, unfortunately.
Good enough to beat Alex in 5 sets on grass. So
Alex
tough.
will improve from a match like this. These are those litmus test matches, Alvin, that I keep talking about. You got to be able to beat a professional who's 30, 40, 50 in the world, who won't give you anything. Right. A lot of our American kids, in my opinion, especially young, and Alex is still, 20 years old, they come out kind of expecting their level of play to just bowl somebody over, as it did in juniors. Some of them may have done it in college, maybe not. I feel like a lot of our American players are not appreciative of there are 70 players that have played the tour for 6+ years that you have to play against, and they're not going anywhere. They're not super solid. They're not amazing. You don't see them, but you best believe that they're going to make you play some balls. You're going to have to beat me today. I'm not going to give it to you. You have to take it from me. And are you good enough to take it from me? And I think that's where he and the slew of the young Americans, I'm not talking about Sheldon, Fritz, and Tiafoe. I'm talking about Bassa Veretti. I'm talking about Lerner Tien. I'm talking about my main man, McDonald. I'm talking about Mackey, not so much. I'm talking about, obviously Alex, Jerome. There's so many of these guys that have to now learn to understand and really get their feet, kind of get their legs under them in a match and realize, okay, especially ones that are underserved a little bit in terms of weapons. You got a big serve, okay, great. But like Sasha, I think Alex has a game very similar. He can be a little streaky. He's got a big serve, but his forehand is not Yao Fonseca big. Got a good forehand.
Yeah.
And so that way, I look at him a lot more than I look at Sasha in the sense that, but he can't go through you either, though. And that's why I think he's in a little bit of that tough space. And I think he needs to do a little more. Hey, you heard it right here. There's players like Riley Opelka that have a massive serve, and can't always convert the next piece of it from time to time. And that's something that it takes a while. I mean, obviously he's 7 foot tall.
With Mix, it's almost like, he has the tools. You can see it all. It's all there. He's a very talented tennis player, much like everyone else. But
and he's very
the transition from, high level juniors, all the way through to the pro tour, like at this point now he's going to be forced to define his game style. Like what is he actually trying to get done on the tennis court? Like he can move pretty well for his size, hit forehands and backhands. He's got good feel, right? Can really pop a first serve, but like yeah, there's 10 guys just like that.
Thank you.
Probably in his half of the draw, like at all times. So,
especially at Wemby,
how do you turn a skill into a job? Like that is what being a professional is all about. And this is not just playing tennis anymore. This is being a professional tennis player. And that's the thing. And this is a a situation that's as old as time when we're talking about tennis, like transitioning from high level juniors into a day in and day out pro. You mentioned Marcus Garone, right? I'll give hats off to Marcus Garone. He's become a day in and day out pro. He is the new school version of Bobby Reynolds, right? He's kind of found himself in the 50 to 60 range,
but he's settling in.
He's not going to drop past that. In a good run, he might find himself into the year like creeping into the 30, 32, maybe getting seated at the U.S. Open. But like that's he's going to maximize his skill and get everything out of his career. Right. And I think that's
hats off to him for that. That's a huge statement. For those of us that know, that's a huge statement.
It's hard
to settle in at 50 in the world. To settle in means you've been there a little while. And you've defended that, you know what I mean, across a litany of, back in the day, 250s, 500s, and a few surprise runs at 1,000 or two, a round 3 versus round 4 versus first round at a slam, kind of maximizing the draw. And the fact that you've been there, done that, you're getting there. So I agree with you, Alvin. I agree with you 100%. I think that's a good thing for him, and I look forward to all our young Americans going forward. I did want to ask you about that match with Jaume and Bublik, because to me, they're very similar type of players that have been out there a while, that are both very good. You, of course, would say Jaume would be better on clay, and Bublik is not the kind of player to go through you. Let's be honest. He's got big game, but he's just as quick to hit a drop shot as he is to hit a big backhand.
Yeah. So I think what we're running into with Bublik right now. Now, granted, Bublik was up 2 sets to 1 and found himself in a tiebreaker in that fourth set, which we could be having a very different conversation if he serves a little bit better in that breaker, right? Gets out of the tennis match, right? But again, to that previous point about being a professional tennis player, so this is Bublik's next kind of iteration of himself. Like, he's been on the tour for a few years, and now he's starting to see some success at the higher levels. Right? Takes out center last week, made a good run at the French Open, I guess won Halle, but like he's never been in a situation before where
he's defending,
wins a warm-up event, right? Wins a warm-up event, beats the number one player in the world.
He's now the higher end player.
Yeah, and now like how do you do the full mental reset and then enter a Grand Slam in which you're hoping you can, like, you expect yourself to be in the round in the second week,
100%.
Right? That's a different mindset,
different kind of pressure, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just great French Open, hits the scene, like hits the, I would say the casual tennis fan's conscience by doing well at the French Open, and then beats Sinner, wins Halle. Okay, he's had a really strong, last month or so. June was good to him, but now it's like this is actually the prize. Like, now you've got the seed. You're coming into Wimbledon on a surface that you've said if you ever win a Grand Slam, it'll probably be Wimbledon, just because of the creativity, the mix of power. It's a good match for him. It's not always that straightforward.
That's true.
Yeah, and then also thinking about now next year when he comes back to do this, if he expects to do well at French Open again, now you have to start looking at this as not two separate surfaces and two separate tournaments. This is a 7-week period that you have to now plan for and manage well. Like, there's only 5 weeks between second week of Wimbledon or second week of French Open and the second week of Wimbledon. Like, it's quick. It's quick. So yeah, that's I hope we're having the same conversation about Bublik next year, and he's still seated and still doing well and pressing on. And
in typical Bublik fashion, we have no idea.
So I don't know. He could be retired next year.
That's the problem.
I don't know.
Can we look ahead a little bit? Draper,
let's please do.
Draper Cilic. What are you thinking?
I mean, Marin Cilic got through straight sets today, right? Like, that was he's like, I've been here. I know what I'm doing.
This is round 2 of the thank you very much, England, for thanks for being a Brit.
I'll mess around. I'll mess around and call Cilic over Draper in like 4. Yeah, I don't mind making that call.
Okay,
I don't mind making that call.
I wouldn't want you to go that strong. That's big.
I said it, but fine. I'll say something out loud. I don't care.
Bonzi and Thompson.
I don't know. Toss up. Probably Bonzi. I don't know. I don't know. I didn't see much of either of their first round matches to. Let's just put it this way: they didn't make my list.
Fair enough.
Matches,
and hey, I understand.
Matches of
Nori
interest.
and Tiafo.
Yeah. A third round performance for either of these players is going to really mean something, considering what they're going to have to do to get there. Francis looked pretty good in his match. I'm not going to lie. Like he looked focused. He looked focused.
Francis has this crazy ability to make a tough match look routine. I mean, it's darn near a mutant ability. I mean, he can take a rough match and make it look routine. And then a guy that you think he should handle pretty well, he can scrap out like he barely got through that thing, like he didn't get his match notes. I think that's going to be a tough match for Francis. I'll be honest. I think not just the left hand, not just the serving, not just the grass. I think that Cam is the player of all the veteran players, lefty, grass, experienced to play.
Yeah,
they're just. Anybody else? I'm not. I don't like that matchup for Francis. I'll be very honest. Another match I don't like is Struff and Felix. Auger-Aliassime. That's going to be a tough match for Felix. You heard it right here.
There's a slew of matches here that I've written down that all kind of feel very similar. Like Felix versus Struff feels a lot like Monfils versus Fusovic,
right?
Which feels a lot like Nori versus Tiafo,
right.
Which also feels like Van der Zandschulp versus Davidovich Fokina. Like
these
matches all kind of feel like I don't know.
Yeah.
This is gonna go 4 or 5. Like it's not.
It'll be fireworks for sure. 4 for sure.
Yeah.
5 likely. You can put Bonzi and Thompson in that situation.
Rublev versus Lloyd Harris. Like Lloyd was top 50 2 years ago before he got hurt. Like, and now he's kind of making his way back. Like Lloyd's tough as shit, man. Like,
right.
I don't know, especially on grass. Like,
right.
I got even Dan Evans is not going to make life easy for
Novak.
Like
100%. Hey, you heard it right here. That's the one I really want to watch.
There are some
Dan will play his butt off and has earned this chance to play. He's stoked for this.
Yeah. I think that's there are so many good matches on the men's side, second round. I would say the women's side had a lot of firework-ish a lot of fireworks in the first round. The men are going to kind of take back the attention in the second round. There's a lot of really, really good, like if you can make the time, find some time in the next, Wednesday, Thursday here. There's gonna be a lot of really, really good men's matches. It's gonna start to look like tennis again. But that's what I'm looking forward to. Even Nico Jari versus Lerner Tien.
That could be a tough one. I was gonna say the same thing about Dimitrov and Mutet. I mean, that's
I forgot about that one. Yeah,
there's so many good matches that are showing up here that you're like, dude, none of these are walkovers, you know what I mean, by any stretch of the imagination. And as I said, and to me, the best one that just jumps off the page is Cilic and Draper. I mean there's I literally have got the next 2 or 3 days are just chock full.
It feels like a 500. Like at this point now, it feels like a 500. Like there aren't like a lot of like random ones that have kind of crept through into the second round. It's just like, okay, tight. It's a tight round of 64 right now.
Oh, no doubt.
Like we just mentioned 13 matches. That's like this was like half of them. Like this is what we're talking about.
It's Wemby. And 3 of the seeds or 4 of the seeds of the top 8 went out. You know what I mean? So I mean, that's weird. If you got that many good ones still, and 3 of your seeds went out, including Zverev. I mean, that's some tough sledding. So it's going to be good. Hey, if you're watching out there, give us a shout. What match you're keyed up on? Give us your thoughts on what you think may happen. For me, especially for the matchups, Alvin he's more the head-to-head and the stats kind of guy. Look forward to seeing what you guys are looking forward to. I want to say one brief thing for the juniors that might be watching or parents of juniors that are watching and listening. Try to take a player that's in the tournament that reminds you of your son or daughter and just watch that player play through 2, 3, 4 matches if possible. See what they play like. See how they handle different styles. Watch that player through a few other tournaments, obviously in addition to Wimbledon, which is obviously a little bit of a weird one because of the surface, which your kid likely may not play much on. But watching that gives you a great snapshot of the rock, paper, scissors effect of your kid in a finished form. In a 10 years from now, my kid could at best hope to play and look like this. This is what that looks like. And really see, does your kid have the intangibles like that player does to maximize those various things? And what type of things still trip them up, at a certain point? The last thing I was going to say, Alvin, is that I'll be changing my background here pretty soon as the grass starts getting more chewed up. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, wow. Look at you.
You know what I mean? But I will say that to say it is going to be this tournament's always, always tough. And I am just happy to see a handful of the Brits make it through. You know what I mean? Women and men. And I'm looking forward to, there was a young qualifier. What was the guy named Tiavet? Was that his name? The young,
He's got Carlos in the second round.
Yeah, well, he may not go too far, but I think he won it. Wasn't he like 970 or something like that in his first round? He's gonna Tarvet, that's his name. I look forward to seeing him have a chance against Mr. Carlos, and again, you always love seeing the English come through for their players in these kind of matches.
You mentioned something about the grass, and I think it's interesting to keep this kind of front of mind as we move through the championships, right? The play, this is the only tournament, or this is the only surface in which the surface itself changes throughout the course of the event.
True.
Right. Right now the grass it looks just like it is behind you. It's green, it's slick, it's a little more muted, right? But like you've already seen it in the first 2 days. Like now the brown spots are starting to creep up around the baseline, getting chewed up, and so the speed will. The speed will change. The game will change. The bounces will change. The weather has a very weird impact on the way that grass court tennis is played.
The dome, the cover.
Yeah, and even someone mentioned, kind of Carlos coming in here yesterday. I guess it was at this time, playing his first round match on fresh grass. Like, even think about he played. Was it Eastbourne? Did he play Eastbourne? Like just a couple weeks ago, that was the tournament he played. He didn't play Holly, he played Eastbourne.
Yeah.
But for the first time, the women played Eastbourne as well. So, but the men played the second week. The grass was already eaten up, so he goes into from eaten up grass into fresh grass, right? Which is also just very different. So it's one of those nuances like we should be aware of, and we should kind of appreciate, because clay don't change. They water that thing.
Clay doesn't change, but the surface and the temp does make it be a little different. I was thinking about that
from location to location, but not throughout the course of the tournament. Like Roland Garros played the same on.
The surface itself won't change as drastic. There's wet clay, dry clay, heat of the day, early morning. To your point, slower, faster, but it's still clay. Grass is and the bounces, the lack of grass, right? All that's only going to get worse as it gets through. But and players start to get a little bit more, those that win especially, start to get a little more attuned to the grass, attuned to how they have to get through. And Alvin, you heard it right here. I've seen a lot. This might be a tournament where we're seeing they're finally starting to, I say finally. Every time I've seen it, I'm talking about the women match in particular, the forehand can opener, may it rest in peace, because people are starting to come forward on that thing like it's a part-time job.
Yeah, so you got to read it.
You're not going over there smacking something, hitting a buggy or a slapper. The forehand can opener is starting to get very well adapted to. And so I'm looking forward to seeing players that are going to be a little more aggressive on the wings, smacking that down the line a little more. Brendan Connection did a nice job of that against Zverev and caught him several times. He was stretched out, but he's like, yeah, I'm hurt, but I'll make you hurt just as much as me. And as opposed to hitting the old slice can opener. And the players that tend to come up with the L, including Sasha, including Coco, including Keen Win, including JPEG, they were slicing out wide on the forehand, Alvin. And the players were coming on that thing like, okay, thank you very much. Gotcha. And so that's just something that I've been watching.
And that first volley doesn't even have to be that good, because if you're
It just
coming
has
off
to
of
be made.
open stance, can't open slice forehand, like you're just you're not getting back in the court. Like
That's right.
Yeah.
No, so you almost better off hitting it, which begs the Yeah. question, why didn't they?
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. Let's put a pin in it there.
Yep.
I'm Alvin. That's Torrey. We'll catch you guys after round 2.
Yes, sir.
Peace.